Welcome to Actual Spinster. My name is Anna Marie. Today I'm going to do a video about trans book recommendations. I did make a video like this in 2022, I think, so I will link that because I'm going to try and not repeat myself, and I do cover some of my all-time favourite books in that, but I definitely feel like I've read a few more and I have enough to kind of do another sort of recommendation video. Which is nice. That's what this is, and I also thought I would make it hopefully in time for the Trans Rights Readathon, which is mostly run on TikTok, but if you bridge these two platforms, you might be interested, and yeah, it's always good to talk about and recommend trans books, isn't it? So I'll leave information to the Trans Rights Readathon in the description box so you can kind of find out how it works, what it's trying to do, and also the prompts that they have and stuff like that, because yeah, there are some prompts which I don't really care about, so I'm not going to talk about these, although I'm sure some of the things I'm going to mention will fall into that. And I also thought I would show you a couple books that I potentially might try and read during the readathon, but I actually don't know if I'll be able to read anything during the readathon. It's quite a short one. I think it's from March 22nd to March 29th, I want to say that. Before I forget these, I wanted to include them because I don't have physical copies, although I do have another book by the author, but I haven't read that one. So this, the first book recommendation is The Deep by River Solomon, which is set in a future world under the sea. The main character is a sort of like mermaid type creature, sea creature, like sea human hybrid, who was formed through the sort of history of transatlantic slavery when pregnant enslaved women were thrown overboard, and then the children that were inside of them were able to survive underwater, I guess is the key part. That sort of happened in the past, and then we're following the sort of society as it is, hundreds of years into the future. I don't quite know, but there is the sense of futureness. And basically they have this sort of system of memory and history, and where they have one person who is their memory keeper, and I think her name is Yetu in this. And so yeah, that's a really difficult job. So it's kind of about those dimensions of traumatic memory and what does sort of how to hold a colonial past, but also just violence, especially in terms of racial violence. It's just, I'm doing a really bad job explaining this. It's a really great and interesting novella, and I would recommend it. It is pretty intense, obviously, and it is very much about kind of bodily sensation and memory. Yeah, anyway, I would really recommend this, and I'm doing a bad job, so I'm gonna move on. And the other book I don't have was written by two people, so I don't believe both are trans, but I might be wrong. But this is Everything for Everyone, an oral history of the New York Commune 2052 to 2072 by Emmy O'Brien and Eman Abdelhadi. But yeah, Emmy O'Brien is one of the main authors, and yeah, this book is really wonderful. The idea is that it's this non-fiction history book, oral history testimony book about the history that happened between 2052 and 2072 in New York, and how all of these communes were built up, and how they fought against the police and the state, and how they created societies and communities of care, and yeah, communes, communalism, different ways of living. It's very exploratory. There's lots of different aspects. It is done through each chapter is an interview with a different person, so you get different elements of society and of the ways the different structures that people are creating together, and there are, it's not that they all live in exactly the same way, but yeah, so they cover all sorts of things. There's space, there's healthcare, reproduction, there's a discussion about yeah, there's a really intense discussion about this cult, and yeah, so anyway, but whatever, it's a really wonderful book and I would really recommend it. I have also talked about it before on this channel, so yeah, again, I'm really sorry, today I seem to be doing a very bad job of describing things, but there we go. So now I will talk more about the books I have physically. I did want to say, I'm pretty sure I must have forgotten to mention this in my trans and non-binary book racks, or maybe I did and I just missed it, but I love this book, Metabolize If Able by Clay Add. It's a sci-fi book set in the future where there are clones, and it's about healthcare and corporate politics and art. It's told in different formats, and there's also a script at the end. It's obviously pretty short, But yeah, it's about community care, it's about radical love and community, and it is also about reproduction in like a really interesting kind of way, I think, and I would definitely recommend it. And yeah, okay, well, I think I will recommend this next. So I haven't read, full disclosure, I have not read all of this through, but this is a poetry anthology, which I wouldn't, it will take me a while to read through because like I don't, but I do think it's really great. And I mean, it's got this amazing cover. So this is We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetics, edited by Andrea Abbey Karam and Kay Gabriel. But yeah, no, this is really fantastic if you're interested in poetry and trans poetics especially. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna read this one out, but I just like alighted onto a poem that's called One or Several Goblin Girl Workers Dreaming in Unison of the Mothman. The other poem is called By the Gayborhood Shake Shack I Sat Down and Wept. Okay, well, I got a bit distracted reading through bits of this, but anyway, there's some snippets of like Lou Sullivan in here. There's a lot of different poets in here, so I would really recommend that, I guess. Can you read this? I don't know if this is helpful at all, but I guess if you wanted to pause and you could read it, this might be helpful. Okay, next is the writer Joanna Hedver. I feel like this copy of mine is getting like more and more dirty, but that's how it goes, I guess. So this is Your Love Is Not Good. Yeah, I think these, I would include these in a kind of trans and non-binary recommendation thing, but I would say that they're quite nebulous about gender, so I don't think that necessarily if you're looking to read like specific representation or something that you would necessarily get that in terms of gender stuff. But it's not to say these aren't like interested in gender, but I guess they aren't super interested in making like direct statements about like the narrator or the author. So this is a fiction book, and it's like set in the art world, and it's about this artist who is, I think, Korean American, who's a painter, and she gets kind of obsessed with this particular muse who is a white woman, and then she kind of falls into the art world and in the sort of implications of whiteness, and the racial politics and power dynamics of the art world are then very much like at the fore of what's being discussed, including kind of queer desire, kink, money, especially like economics, and then also there's some interesting kind of discussions about like a boycott or a strike as well that's going on. And then this is more like it's like non-fiction, so it's kind of like, I suppose it bridges, I don't know. It's got like poetry, it's got lots of different bits and bobs in here, and it's also got kind of like behind the scenes of some plays that Joanna Hedver put on, which I really enjoyed learning about, and there are some pictures too. This is sort of like, I think if you really are interested in Joanna Hedver's work, the like artistic practice, and maybe you've read this novel, then I would recommend maybe trying to find this. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but I do enjoy it, and like, it's also really interesting if you are thinking about kind of like ways to document performance art. How sort of difficult that might be or not. But I just wanted to recommend them both together, I guess. And did I even say this is called Minerva, A Miscarriage of the Brain? This cover is really great, I love it. Doing a very bad job booktubing today, but whatever. Okay, I believe this is the one that I most recently read. This is Dyke Geology by Sabrina Imbler. It's a very short non-fiction essay about rocks and relationships and volcanoes and gays. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was written because there's this kind of like constant pun of dyke and dike, especially in terms of geology, and so I feel like that's sort of the overall context, but then this is actually, I thought it was very well written nature writing, and I also enjoyed how it brought in relationships and connection, and I am always going to be a fan of like gay rock related puns because I'm a high femme, like I'm a stone lesbian, like, so obviously there's even more kind of resonance for me in some cases. It's pretty slight, but I think it's nice, and I also really like the cover, it's good. And maybe if you're like a geology nerd, it might be perfect for you. Let's go next to Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kasulke. This I think was recommended to me by Sage because I said I love books about emails, but this isn't emails necessarily, it's based on Slack, and it's all like this. This is basically about Gerald and how his consciousness gets uploaded to Slack, and that's the idea. It reminded me actually of a book I read, which now I can't remember what it was called, but I'll put a picture of here. A kind of like absurdist workplace comedy type thing, which is thinking about like the absurdity of capitalist work and the sort of like business speak of relationships that happens and how they are totally meaningless, but then at the same time they do sort of mean something. It's a fun, very quick book. I enjoyed it. Okay, then we have a book that I have also spoken about on my channel before. This is Little Fish by Casey Platt. This is a really wonderful book. I really enjoyed it. I would look up content warnings. I would say that the major ones are probably like, well, transmisogyny in general, sexual assault, suicide. It's a pretty heavy book, but it also manages to be very sweet, which I think is one of the reasons why it feels so precious, even if, yeah, it's very intense. It's basically about a 30-year-old trans woman called Wendy, who lives in Winnipeg, and it's like wintertime, and she goes to her grandmother or her Oma's funeral, and then after the funeral she gets a phone call from a woman called Anna who tells her like her grandfather was maybe like her as in trans, not, you know, cis and straight. Yeah, it's about the sort of implications of that, and then what follows after that revelation. Wendy's grandparents and herself are Mennonite, and so obviously that's also like a major aspect of this, Mennonite culture, belief, community, that kind of thing, and the sort of like the tenderness and the difficulties of those things too. So that's that one. And then this book is maybe one of my all-time favorite books ever, and I read it last year, and this is When the Angels Left the Old Country by Sasha Lamb. It's like very out of field for me because it's a YA book and I don't really read YA, but this book is like a Jewish story. It's sort of like a fantasy version of the like Yiddish immigration story to America, you know? So it follows these oh my gosh, I love this book so much. Even starting to like describe it, I'm like, oh, best book ever. It's about an angel and a demon, like a shaden, who are from, it's a tiny little shtetl that is so cool, so small, it's called shtetl, but I'm pretty sure it's in Poland. It's the turn of the century, and basically some people from shtetl, they go to America, and then the angel and demon, they get worried about them, or like there's some reason for them to follow them, and so they follow along, and then it's sort of about that journey. Yeah, the demon is called Little Ash, or Ashmedai, and obviously the demon is motivated by I wouldn't say like the Yetzer Hara, but like, you know, maybe slightly evil inclinations. But it's all very sweet, and it's like very fun in terms of like trans stuff, and obviously angels and demons, they don't really have gender, although actually I would say like Ash sort of does have a gender, but like he's still pretty like fluid about, like it's not, you know. But yeah, I love the angels so much, and I love what this has to say also about unions, and yeah, there's some really sweet gays as well, and like it's really wonderful. So yeah, I think those are all of the ones that I'd recommend that I've read in the past, I guess, 2 years or so. I have 3 books here that I potentially might pick up for the like during the readathon. So first we have The Free People's Village by Sim Kern, who actually is the originator of the Trans Rights Readathon last year, I think, and now I don't think they're running it this year or anything, but like, yeah, inspired by their stuff last year. So maybe it would be nice to try to read one of their books during the readathon, I don't know. This is also a YA book. In an alternate 2020 timeline, Al Gore won the 2000 election and declared a war on climate change rather than a war on terror. I've actually never read the blurb. I just know that it's like, yeah, like a climate fiction alternative future book. And I know that it's also about like alternative living, and anyway, punk. I also think, yeah, because like I've definitely shown this before, I've talked about this book before, the book is like a poster. It says Save the 8th on it, I just can't be bothered to get it all out, and it's like a punk poster too, and there's like a burning cop car, so yeah, anyway. It looks very exciting, and now the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm convincing myself that yes, I should pick this up for the readathon, but we'll see. Another book I have, which I have had for a really long time, I just sort of feel like it's gonna be really intense, so but this is An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. I also would love to read Sorryland by River Solomon. I don't have a copy of that yet, but again, honestly, with both of these I do feel quite hesitant in terms of the like content that is in them, because I know they're quite intense in terms of for me it's like sexual violence stuff that is really difficult to read, especially in terms of like child stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think like I still want to read these books, I just need to like accept that they might be upsetting and then just go for it, and if I have to stop then I have to stop, or if I have to skip a bit then I have to skip a bit, but that's okay, it's not the end of the world. So I've had this book for ages, and this is also a potential. And then another book, which is a copy from a friend actually, so I also kind of need to read this soon-ish, but this is Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl by Andrea Lawler. I think this is like one of those books where it's like, this isn't an Orlando retelling, but it's also sort of not an Orlando retelling. It's about Paul who can shapeshift different genders in 1993. He studies queer theory, has a dyke best friend, makes zines, and is a flaneur with a rich dating life. But Paul's also got a secret. He's a shapeshifter. Oscillating wildly from riot girl to leather cub, women's studies major to trade, Paul transforms his body at will in a series of adventures that take him from Iowa City to Boys Town to Provincetown and finally to San Francisco, a journey through the deep queer archives of struggle and pleasure. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be fun, a bit punky. Emma, like recently on my recommendations video, suggested that this was like a punky book, so that was also why I was like, oh, I have it right now, so I should read it. I hope this video made sense. I feel like I took like a bit of a break after making a lot of videos in February, and now I feel like coming back I can't speak, but it might also just be because I'm pretty tired. Yeah, let me know if you're participating in the Trans Rights Readathon, or if you've read any of these books and you like them or what you thought, or if you have any other books to recommend. And yeah, I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye!